Good evening, everyone. I am Karina Dice, and I'll be filling in as your moderator for tonight. It's now 7 o'clock, and we're expected to start, but I just want to give some persons an additional 5 minutes to join. So if you can just bear with us until that time. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. My name is Tamoy Campbell, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. It is such a pleasure to have you all here and to welcome you to our webinar tonight. Now, 2021 has all about being where the money resides, and everyone wants to secure the bag. But I'm
Hi, Tamoy. We're not hearing.
oh, my apologies. Is it a lot better now?
Yes, that's good.
Awesome. So welcome again, everyone. My name is Samuel Campbell, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. Now, as I said before,
Not hearing again.
hearing again? Oh no! All right, I'm gonna try joining in from my next device. Hopefully, by that time.
Karina.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me a little better now? You can put it in the chat or not your head.
You're hearing.
Awesome. Yes, lovely. So welcome again, everyone, and I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. So my name is Tamoy Campbell, and I'm going to be your moderator for this evening. I just want to let everyone know that this session is recorded and it could be used rather for promotional videos and other aspects of the UEAA. And so I just wanted to lay some ground rules going forward, as well as there will be moments when we will facilitate Q&A, but that will be done closer to the end of the session. Now, since we've gotten all the rules out of the way, 2021 has been everything about securing the bag and being where the money resides. But we have to understand how it is that we're going to get there. We want to create wealth. We want to understand how to break into our financial freedom. And this session is going to facilitate all of that. Tonight, you're in for financial literacy and financial wellness. But I won't be the person who will be doing all of that. Tonight, we have a vibrant, dynamic, and well-versed individual who's going to take us all through the nooks, all through everything that we have to know as it relates to ensuring that we can be financially literate and ensure that we're creating the well-needed wealth that we all desire. And tonight, we have Miss Stacia Morris. Miss Morris is the author of Teen Money 101 and founder of Your Money Trek. She holds a post-MBA certificate in accounting, an MBA from Pace University, New York, and a BA from the University of the West Indies, where she was also a college track star. Morris also holds a financial and insurance certifications and currently works as a financial advisor. Her diverse professional background includes global leasing, finance, consulting, information technology strategy, business intelligence, and complex project management for Fortune 500 companies. That was a lot, but you know that you're in for a treat. Morris also spent the majority of her corporate career at IBM Corporation in a variety of roles. Her work and travels to the Latin American countries are among her most favorite IBM experience. Ladies and gentlemen, please put some stars in the chat and some round of applause to welcome Miss Morris to our virtual stage. The floor is yours, Miss Morris.
Okay, thank you very much, Samoy. Thank you for that very interesting introduction. Everybody, thank you tonight for coming out. Karina, I need to give you a shout out, and the University Alumni Relations. Don't know if you realize it, but this is the third time in about 3 months that you've had me on your stage. So you can let me know what you have planned for the rest of the year for me. So I love to talk. Thank you very much for the opportunity to do this. I want to thank all the attendees. Everybody, you're all special. I do have some other specials. I have my siblings, I have my mentees, I have friends, etc. But everybody on this stage, you're special. So with that, let me go into sharing the screen and pulling up my presentation. Okay, and I hope everybody can see everything. Let me go into my slideshow. Gotta move this away. Okay, slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so tonight we are gonna talk about financial literacy, financial wellness, and I'm really gonna talk to you about being a CEO of your own household. So Karina was kind enough to have some folks fill in some information, and we get to those. I talked to the information that was provided as we go along. Tonight, we're gonna discuss the CEO. Is the CEO? What does the CEO do? We're going to talk about what the CEO does and what the CEO is responsible for in terms of income and expense, balance sheet, credit and credit management, budget and planning. And then I'm going to tell you about my personal experience. So I'm sure everybody's going to hang in there to hear about my experience with all of this stuff that I'm going to teach you that I didn't know, that I wish I had known at that point in as soon as I became an adult, I should have known this stuff. Then we're going to have a call to action. Then we're going to go into questions and answers. So this is what we're going to be doing tonight. So what we're not going to be doing, and some people had other that they thought they would learn tonight. Most people wanted to learn budget and planning, saving, credit management, everything that I have here on this. Most people want to learn. But some people wanted to learn about investments within the Caribbean, how to invest their money wisely, investing for retirement, and entrepreneurship. So I know Karina is listening. So Karina, each of the topics I am showing here really could be an hour, and it's every topic is a workshop in themselves. So the others that you want to know, if you're on this line, on this webinar, and you're the one who said investments, etc., I am setting the base. So once the base is set, you can then jump into other things. So we're not doing investments tonight. We're not doing entrepreneurship. We're not doing investments in the Caribbean. We're looking at how you would become your own CEO. So the first thing I wanted to do was some definitions. What's financial literacy and what is financial wellness? And the 51 people who responded to the questionnaires, everybody got financial literacy right, really. And most people also got financial wellness. But I should step back a bit. I just forgot to read something. One person's expectations fitted right into what I'm doing tonight, fits right into the objectives. And this person's expectations, I'm reading it, to develop a normal spending habit, to establish a healthy perspective around money in general. So that's what we'll be doing. Back to literacy. Everybody said it was knowledge, financial knowledge, understand financial concepts. Financial wellness. You'd be interested that a lot of people talked about financial stress. I got mad, and I just laughed at that because a lot of people say wellness is not stress. So if you're financially stressed about paying your bills, etc., that's not wellness. So wellness is consistent application of the knowledge that you have. So we're going to talk tonight about that consistent application. Interesting, this was a study that was done, and the study says, let me move some people. The study says there's a strong link between financial literacy and financial wellness among African Americans. And or everybody on this call, let's just say among people, but African Americans and Africans and Caribbean folks, just read yourself into this. It says that those who are more financially literate are more likely to plan and save for retirement, have non-retirement savings, and to better manage their debt. They are also likely to be less financially fragile. So, what's financial fragility, especially during this pandemic? Many people, most of us, have no or little savings, no backup or emergency funds, have lost jobs, and with all of that said, how many months can you exist? Interestingly, somebody said on this that financial wellness is being able to live for 2 months. Now, audience, how many months have we been living through this pandemic? It's been about 11. And hopefully we've been existing, we've been able to exist, we've been able to shuffle our finances and exist. So let's go to financial wellness. What is financial wellness? I just said, somebody said that I had about 4 people who talked about stresses. So financial wellness is the access to financial resources when needed. A lot of us are being challenged during this COVID period. It's the ability to finance your needs, to pay your own way, to fund your lifestyle. No matter what stage you are in life, you should be able to fund your lifestyle, buy your food, housing, transportation, health, and whatever you're supposed to be able to save towards that emergency fund. And I think a lot of us, our emergency funds are running out because we've been in this pandemic without jobs, without the normal activity for almost a year. Save for future funds. Plan for the future, college, house, retirement. Even though we're living through a pandemic, we still have to plan for the future. And we still have to make educated financial decisions. So if you come out of tonight, I want basically for you to come out of this session tonight, knowing the parameters to being the CEO of your own household, and particularly women. I know we have guys on, but I'm going to show you statistics where you would realize the statistics are biased against women, but they're real. So we just have to take it as reality, okay? Financial wellness continuing, your ability to fund your children, your parents. A lot of us are in the sandwich generation where we're bringing up children and managing our parents at the same time. Healthcare, college purchases, large purchases, homes, cars, our passions. A lot of us, particularly us women, we forget to fund our passions. So find where your passion is and go fund your passion. Somehow I'm out of my camera range, so you hear me, but probably not seeing me. Okay, so you gotta fund your passion and charitable donations, also retirement, and fund your legacy. Additionally, we need to understand financial concepts, because when you go to the bank, you need to be able to talk to the banker and understand what the banker is saying to you, or a financial advisor. You need to, so therefore you need to effectively interact with financial services providers. I talked about making plans for the future, and have goals, especially during this time when a lot of people are alone and your circle is limited. Have goals, have reasons for getting up in the morning and working towards something. Make financial choices about saving, when you save, when you spend, when you invest, managing your debt and your credit. I just talked about wellness at all stages of your life. I just touched on it. Whether you're a college student, a young adult with your first job, young adult who is married, having kids, climbing the corporate ladder, or if you're an entrepreneur, or you're mid-career, or you're pre-retiree, or you're retiree, at every stage of your life, you need to be able to be financially well. We have concerns, and I'm going to touch on the main concerns. At the early stage of your life, coming out of college, if you weren't fortunate to get a scholarship to pay your way, coming out of college, you probably are concerned about paying off your college debt. Finding a job, what's the future going to look like? Midlife stage, career, marriage and finances, caring for children, spouse, parent, siblings, retirement, and then really at this stage, you really are concerned about everything. I asked what people were concerned about, what keeps you up at night. And I got a lot of responses which said life events, elder care funding, retirement funding. And most people said that life events, meaning your current life, especially if you're in the midlife stage, you just have a lot of stuff to keep you up at night. So therefore, let's help you to be financially well so that you can sleep at night, okay? Later stage of life is a healthcare, and in this country, social security, and outliving your money. A lot of us are getting healthier. We are maintaining our sanity for a longer period of time, and we just may outlive our money. Financial illiteracy, poor money management. I'm going to read something to you soon about money management, particularly within our society. But illiteracy correlates to poverty. It has a negative income on the national economy. And here I'm talking about financial illiteracy. And I should tell you that all of my, everything was read about my, Tamoy read my, I had a BA in economics. I did lots of stuff, education stuff. But I would tell you when I became financially well, when I started on the track to be financially well, even though educationally, I was very, very literate. In terms of financial wellness, I was not literate at all. And I'll be the first person to accept that. So literally, literacy correlates to wellness. We need to be the CEOs of our households. And here are some of the statistics I wanted to point out to you. Men are CEOs of their households 30%, whereas women are CEOs of their households 70%. And positivity correlates to positive impacts on the national economy. I want you, women, particularly the women, to hold on to this 70% that I just mentioned. Those of you who are 70% of the time, you are the CEO of your household. Now, I'm going to pull something from the United Nations. The United Nations has something called Sustainable Development Goals, and a lot of the Caribbean countries say that they're following the UN Strategic Development Goals. However, let's go to what the Strategic Development Goal says. Financial literacy is a key pillar for financial inclusion and a critical success factor to achieve at least 9 of the 17 strategic development goals. For instance, eliminating poverty and achieving gender equality is simply not possible when 2/3 of adults worldwide remain financially illiterate. And women continue to trail men in financial decisions. So 70% of women are CEOs of their household, 2/3 of adults are financial literate, and women trail men. So I hope you get in the picture as we go along. Next thing I want you to show, especially this is the US, 49% of women are their family's primary breadwinner, 51% in management positions. Here the 70% come up again. 70% are CEO of their household. Now, tying everything together, 70% of women, I just can't say it too often, 70% of women are CEOs of their household. The UN says that 2/3 of adults worldwide remain financially literate, and women continue to trail men. So women, on this call, I'm giving you the first call to action. Get financially literate and financially well. You're gonna carry the bulk of the household on your shoulders. I know we have broad shoulders, ladies, but let's get ready for it, okay? So there's a dire need for financial literacy, the knowledge, and also a dire need for financial wellness, taking action. What does a CEO do? So you're gonna hear me say CEO of the household, but what does a CEO do? A CEO manages, CEO is the chief executive officer for an organization, and that person manages, understands and manages income and expense, cash flow and savings, balance sheet, credit and credit management, budget and planning, among other things. These are the things we're focusing on tonight. We're going to be CEOs of our households after tonight. So we're going to talk about income and expense right now. I'm going to talk very fast. I may skip some things because I want people to just pick up a lot of what I'm saying, and you'd realize a lot of what I'm saying would spark something in you, and you may say, oh yes, I know this all the time, but why didn't I link this together? So sometimes it takes somebody to come out and link stuff together for you. So understand your sources of income. You either have a salary or salary and a part-time job, retirement funds in the US Social Security funds, and you have sources of income. And most people know their source of income. What most of us don't know, because we may spend a lot, is our expenses. A lot of us may not understand where our money is going. So I'm giving you typically the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I'll be talk fast as I said. Taxes, we have the first set of taxes. I want you to focus in on food. People spend about 13% of their money on food, 34% on housing, apparel 4%, transportation 17%. I want to focus, and that 6% healthcare, I verified it today, and all statistics still say 6%. So we think it's low, it's too low, but anyhow, that's what the statistics show. I want to focus on food. Today, because most of us are home, most of us find time to cook and not eat out. A lot of the money, especially in this country, more than half the money that's spent on food is spent on fast foods and eating out. Housing, we still have to pay the house bills. Apparel, we are homebound right now, not going out much. So I hope that you are not spending much money on apparel, maybe buying some more sweats or leisure clothes. Transportation, the cars in the garage are parked outside, so we're not spending much on transportation, but these are guidelines. And when we get to talk about the budget and setting up a budget, I tell you to take a baseline of what you are, where you are, do your percentages, You don't have to fit here, but just as long as at the end of the day, you have a surplus and not a deficit. This is a typical a spreadsheet, and here the person has a surplus and I apply the percentages. When we do workshops, I usually have people do this at home and come back and show me what their budget, because this is the base of the budget. So I want you to look at this, because when we get to the budget, this is how your budget starts, by what you spend, the breakdown of your expenditure, but you track it monthly. So, okay, we know income, expense, cash flow. This is something we don't look at. This is something we would just, you know, we see something, we want to buy it, and we just go buy it. And then we realize maybe at the end of the month that you spent too much. So your cash flow, you need to look at what comes in and what goes out. Usually coming in is your sources of income. Going out is all your expenses. So we have a disposable income, which is the income after taxes. And that money is what you have to pay your bills. And the government is wise that your employer takes out the taxes upfront. So when you get your money in your checking account or wherever it's deposited, it's already net of taxes. So you get that money to pay your bills, save, invest for charity. And surplus is good. Deficit, as we know, is bad, because somebody has to make up that difference. And in a lot of cases, to make up the difference, we use credit cards in a lot of cases, and that's bad. When we get to the credit cards, we'd see why that's bad. Cash flow, we need to keep it positive. Emergency, you know, during this time, we need lots of emergency funding. We either increase our income if there's a deficit, or we look for alternate sources like a part-time job, or you decrease your expenses. And I just mentioned that during this time, we can really decrease our expenses, because we're not spending as much as we'd spend when we're going out to the job, eating lunch at work, etc. We can make lunch at home or eat leftovers. Savings. A lot of us bypass this item. We would have our sources of income, expenditure, and not much to save. So when we, instead of saving for a car, we would lease a car or get loans to buy a car. We have to save most of the time for down payment for a house. Usually you'd have to put the down payment before you get a mortgage. Save for emergencies, college funding, and all the other things of life that you need to save for. A lot of people say pay yourself first. Just as the federal government and your state government, etc., gets their taxes out of your money first, you should make sure and pay yourself first. Then bulk shop, and it's becoming a habit with a lot of people now to shop at thrift stores or Goodwill stores in the US. And I say live within your means, go green. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to save. For example, go on a spending fast. Try it. Try a month or two where you only buy food, pay the basic bills, and try not to spend, and write down. If you spend anything, write it down, and you'd be surprised that you can go for some months without buying major things. And then for you ladies, I say closet shop. If you have to go out at a big event or whatever, look in your closet first, because you might find something there that you forgot. Or go to your sibling's house or your friends. I am very fortunate. I have a sibling whose size is almost mine, and I have friends who just buy beautiful clothes, etc. Review your finances monthly. Review your budget monthly. When we get to talk about budget, I'll tell you what the responses of some people who responded to the questionnaire. And use free offerings. Go to your library and free movies. So let's take a deep breath here. That was savings. Hope we save. Let's go to something that we do a lot without really thinking about it. Before I came to the US, did not know about credits and credit cards, etc. You just had we didn't even have bank cards then, but you find that you get into this habit. I just do a presentation here, sheet here on what's credit. because I talked to some kids. They were first generation kids, youths going to college, and a lot of them thought that a credit card was free money. So we had to teach them that credit is really a loan, it's not free money, and the privilege of using somebody else's money is called paying interest. And you can, in the US prior to 2008, there were most people had 10, 13 credit cards. The average credit debt was higher than 5,000. Now, a lot of people have managed this down to about roughly $6,000 in credit card debt on average, but we still pay a high interest rates. Some rates can go up to 25% on a credit card, but the average is about 17. Then I say we can negotiate this down. You can call your banker or the source of your credit card, and if you are a good customer or you have some offers, you may be able to negotiate down your credit. But in most cases, the average is 17%, which is very high, because when you compare this with the interest you get on your savings, you may get 1 or 2% on your savings, and you pay 17% on your credit card. So maybe you should just start paying off those high interest credit cards. So for credit planning, I'd say plan to use cash. I don't know, if you're like me, it's very difficult for me to pull out that cash when I go somewhere to buy something I don't think I need, really. I don't need it, but I want it. It's very difficult to pull out the cash. It's easier to pull out the credit card. So try to use cash most of the time. We have to have—
Hi, Stacia, sorry to interrupt.
Karina? Can you hear me, Karina? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we're hearing.
Oh, okay. I had an interruption just now. Okay. So I'm conscious of the time, Karina, so I'm going to be cutting through some of this really fast to get to some of the stuff I want to get to. So I'm saying use 30% of your credit line and keep the most 3 credit cards. And the words here are manage, manage, manage. Just don't let this run away from you. So we have to have credit because it's convenient for emergencies to build credit. It's immediate, and we may have special deals, but watch those deals. I just talked about the disadvantages of credit, the high costs. In the US, if you have a bad credit rating, it impacts the car interest rate, the mortgage, and even the insurance you have on your car. So this is a reason to manage credit. Gonna skip by the credit agencies, gonna skip by the credit scores in the interest of time, but just Google this and make sure you know where you fit. You should have over a score of over 600 to be in a fair range. So care for credit because it impacts all of these things, and keep a healthy credit score. Here I want to talk about paying off debt, because there are two schools here of thought here. Do you pay off the debt with the highest interest rates or the lowest debt amount? I love to see and get results quickly. So I would go for the lower debt amount to get rid of that credit card while I build on paying off the others. I want us to pay attention next to the balance sheet. So we've done income and expense, savings and credit. I want us to pay attention to this because here's where we build wealth. And this is a sheet. This is something that we we ignore a lot of the time. What's on the balance sheet? It's your assets, the cash, investment, cars, houses, and your liabilities. And your net worth is your asset minus your liabilities. Now, we have heard stories about athletes and other people who make a lot of money and then they fall into poverty or they die poor. That's because they never watched their assets and their liabilities and realized that their net worth was dwindling. On the other hand, we have heard stories about people who have lived in the same old house, drove the same old car for ages, lived on with below their means, and when they die, people are surprised that they're millionaires. That's because they kept their assets and they kept watching their net worth. So this is something that we need to do as women, minorities, wherever you live, whoever you are, wherever, we need to watch our net worth. Do we have net worth? Or are we spending everything that comes through our hands? Here's an example of the average family balance sheet. And I talked about bank accounts, etc. I want you to focus on the last number, which is the net worth, 87,000. And I tell you why, this is the average balance sheet. Now, this is a study. I'm going to read to you a study from the Brookings Institute, which said that the Black-white wealth gap reflects a society that has not and does not afford equality of opportunity to our citizens. They said that the average white family has a net worth of $171,000, and the average, which is 10 times greater than that of the Black family. So here is another challenge. We need to build our net worth. A typical white family has 10 times the amount of net worth than a Black family. What's the problem? We are spending more than we earn. And we know there are problems and reasons why our earnings is what it is, but as we strive to earn more, we also need to strive to maintain our net worth. We need to earn more than we owe and build that wealth. Budget, I'll go through the budget really fast. Use the standard parameters, food, clothing, etc. Here we have a budget rule which says 50% is spent of your money spent on necessities, 30 on wants, and 20 on financial goals. A lot of times we get fuzzy between wants and necessities, and wants go up into the necessities line and you spend all that money. So we need to look at what's a necessity, what's want, and try to fund the financial goals. This is a fuzzy picture, but here's what I just showed you before. We start with this is the budget, and we add columns. If you use a spreadsheet or their budgeting software that you can Google, add columns and keep at least 2 to 3 months or 4 months worth of budget, and then when you get to the actual month, look to see what you actually spent. I'll give you another quick tip about use of a budget. When you have a budget and the kids come and say they want a new phone, they want new sneakers, they want a new iPad, etc., you can say, let me look at my budget. I use this a lot. I have no kids, but I nieces and nephews, I did this for when they were in college. I'd say, let me look at my budget. And then I'd say, my budget doesn't allow for me to help you to buy this stuff. If it's a necessity and they need food, etc., sure, I'd help them fund food. But if you want other things, my budget may say no, and I blame my budget. So use this trick. If you have kids, use the budget trick. Blame the budget. Planning, I'm going to touch briefly on planning because things can happen, loss of jobs, the pandemic, etc. So we need to plan. We need to have a rolling plan. I'd say 1 to 5 years, and the details would be on the first year plan, but do have a plan. Even if you have to change it, have a plan. Have something to work towards. So tips are pay off your debt, give up stuff, save, cut costs, declare no spending periods, buy in bulk budget, manage your credit, set goals, and monitor your plans continuously. I just told you what the CEO of a household or CEO of an organization does. So I just told you talked about income, expense, cash flow, savings, balance sheet, credit management, budget, and planning. And I'm going to quickly talk to you about my personal lessons. I worked for IBM, as you heard, and at one stage in my life, I was in charge of IBM's revenue and expense for Latin America, the balance sheet, and planning. I did all that for 3.5 years for IBM Latin America. Do you think I did anything for myself? Was I the CEO of my household? No. I became the CEO of my household after 9/11, when the whole area that I supported and everybody in that area who supported energy and utility, etc., in IBM got downsized. Budget shock. There was no income coming in, but there still were expenses. So I had to put together my budget and manage myself out of that situation, and then go back to being a consultant. Then I went back to full-time with a corporation, and then I decided I really prefer the consulting thing. I had more flexibility then. But then that's when I became the CEO of my household. Please, please, please don't wait until it's an absolute necessity and you are rushing around and what do I do? You know, there's no income coming in. Please start. If you're going to do something at the end of the night, please start to take action to be the CEO of your household. And then I said I didn't have an early focus on budgeting, nor an early focus on saving and investing for retirement. When I came here to do my MBA and I straight out the MBA program, IBM hired me, I really should have started my retirement funding. So to review, understand finances, where the money is coming from, where it's going, manage everything, manage, and be the CEO of your household. Especially remember, women, 70% of households, the CEOs are women. So my call to action, and it's an immediate call to action. If you don't have a budget, if you're not financially well, I want you to be intentional. And if not tomorrow, but then on Saturday, start to put your budget together, pull out the bills, put them in categories, see what you're spending, review stuff regularly, cut out what's not necessary. Try and manage your cash flow and try and save whatever you can when we are gonna get out of this pandemic, and you need to start to save. Funding for emergencies, we are having a very long emergency right now. Manage your credit and the family conversations. I should tell you, I asked people how many people had family conversations. I'm looking at my sheet. Some say not really, some say periodically. The best answer I got, the funniest answer I got, the person said, they have superficial discussions and they're only held when money is needed. So let's do this before money is needed. Let's talk to your family, talk to your kids and whoever makes up your family. So we reviewed all this good stuff, as I said before. Right now, again, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for attending. Thank Karina for putting this together. I know there are lots of questions, and I know, Karina, people want to understand investing, entrepreneurship, etc. So we can show that challenge to Karina. If you have questions, here's my information. And we are on the question track now. Tamoya, Karina?
Yes, I'm still here. Good night again, everyone. This is your opportunity to ask your questions. You could either put them in the chat or you could raise your hand feature. And already we have one right here right now. You could come on the mic if you're...
All right. Hi. Good night, everybody.
I'll read it for you, Miss Morris, in the event that you're not able to see the chat right now. So Anthony said... Oh, hey. Hi, Anthony. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, why is your house both an asset and a liability? Because I actually thought that your house was only an asset.
Well, it's a liability if you still owe the bank some money on your house, Anthony. So the asset part is the equity. And if you paid about 20% down payment and you borrow 80% from the bank, then 20% is an asset and 80% is a liability. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have paid off for your house, then that liability becomes zero and the asset become 100% the cash value of the house.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
Yes, my question is, when do you know how to move from savings to investing? I mean, ideally, they will tell you that an emergency fund, you need to have 3 to 6 months worth of your current expenses saved up. And they will also tell you that, you know, if you're saving to just save, it doesn't make any sense. You have to save to invest. So when do you know how to take that next step?
That's a great question. And in a regular world with pre-pandemic, I would say you save about 6 months of expenses. And then after you have that 6 months of expenses saved in what money where you can get it immediately in a CD, or not even a some in a savings account, but in a CD where that you can get it to immediately, save six months, and then you start to invest. In today's world where the pandemic is stretching out, if you could, you should save more money and then start to invest. But excellent question.
There's one more question in the chat. I saw Mohammed, if I'm not mistaken, say, so if you own your own house but pay land rent, is the land a liability?
I would say yes, the land is a liability because you don't own the land. On the other hand, though, it might be an expense and not in the asset or the liability category. And that's if, now we get into, is it long-term, a long-term lease you have on the land rent, or it depends. If you have a long-term lease on the land rent, then it becomes a liability. Or you can expense it. If it's short-term, it becomes an expense. But then you'll have to dig into the laws of your country. But right off the top of my head, long-term liability, short-term expense.
We have another one from Kenneth. Kenneth, you could open up your mic and you can come on and ask your question, or if you want to type it in the chat, whichever you prefer.
Right. Well, I'm Kenneth I'm actually in Grenada. Well, I noticed our lecturer was basically speaking about lockdown, but in Grenada we just have a 10 o'clock curfew up to 5 in the morning, but our regular life goes on. However, my concern is with saving. In my part of the world, Grenada, we tend to have I'm a public servant actually. And public servants, unfortunately, in Grenada are some of the lowest paid persons in the entire world, I consider. I don't just want to say the region, but I think in the whole world, Grenadian public servants are some of the lowest paid people. So saving is a very difficult part of budgeting for us. The person who is at the middle class persons, public servants basically will call them middle class, but if you want to achieve in Grenada, you have to borrow and go into a lot of debt. These are the persons you find are living at the middle class level. So I just wanted some advice in terms of saving, where, you find it, you have a very low salary, you try to get a average standard of living, and at the end of the day, you have a big mortgage and find it very difficult to save. My only form of saving right now is through a SOSO, which is really a forced saving, I call it. I went into it because I know it's a forced saving, something I have to do. But otherwise, it's very difficult. So I'm kind of looking for some advice where that is concerned.
So Kenneth, I actually went to UWI with your Prime Minister. And I'm from St. Vincent the Grenadines. I can empathize with you. I know the salary structure. Recently, I was in St. Vincent talking to a young girl and trying to help her, trying to get her to do some web development work for me on the side in St. Vincent. I'd pay her, etc. And when she told me what the special jobs that she was doing, they had created some special jobs for kids coming out of community college. And I thought she was telling me that was her weekly stipend and it was her monthly stipend. So I can empathize with you. So I understand what you're saying, the low salaries and how do you save? My challenge to you, Kenneth, is what kind of the world is global and a lot of people are doing work, how technical are you? Can you do something can you do sign up with one of these Fivers or these consulting companies where you can do something in the evening, whatever, code, I don't know if you can code or whatever. Do you have this kind of skills? Because I know what's happening in the Caribbean, and for you to kind of be able to break that mold and be able to get some extra money, you have to look at what kind of support you can offer to the rest of the world. So that's about the, and I am on that bandwagon because I've been trying to get Ralph Gonsalves and Mike St. Vincent people to be on the same track to train people to do work for companies in the US where you can do soft kind of engineering type skills. I don't know if I've answered your question, but my answer to you would be to look outside of the Caribbean for stuff that you can support.
Okay, thank you. In fact, you just provoked something in me that I have been saying a long time. You know, I came through primary school and I was considered one of the bright students. Considered. I used to come first in class, and when you leave standard 4, you either go to standard 5 or you go to standard 6. The standard 6 were for those they consider bright who would eventually end up in secondary school. And the standard 5 were those who they considered a little dunce who would end up in standard 5, but they would go to skills training. And today I'm very jealous of these guys. I'm regretting that I was bright.
Well, it's
because I have to now purchase the furniture. They have to build my house. They fix my car. And what they're making from one job from me, I have to work for a year to make it.
So my challenge to you is, what are you doing with your hands? What are you learning? What have you learned? Have you learned carpentry, plumbing, electricity? Go learn something, Kenneth.
Yeah, well, that's you just provoked that in me actually, and that's the way I think I need to go. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other question?
Yes, we have a hand from Agnola who's been having it up for quite a while, so the floor is yours.
Okay, good night. My question is related to the payment of credit cards. I'm not sure if I understood you correctly, but you mentioned paying off a card with the least amount instead of paying one that had a higher interest rate. Why is that?
Well, for me, Agnola, for me, the thing is I like satisfaction, early satisfaction. So for me, and it's a choice. If you want to pay off the highest, probably I think economically you should pay off the highest. If you, yes, you can load the money down, pay off the highest. But for me, if I have say $2,000, do I pay off a bill that's $2,000, or do I pay the $2,000 on a $10,000 bill that has the higher interest? I want to cut up a card and feel the physical, the satisfaction of cutting a card. So it's up to the person. The best economic answer is to pay down the high interest cards. The satisfaction, personal satisfaction, I want to finish a card, I want to cut it up. Okay?
Thank you.
So it's your choice.
Yes. Okay, I think I'll choose to pay the higher interest first.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay.
That's the correct economic answer. So if I'm thinking as an economist, I pay off the higher interest first. Thinking as a person, Stacia, I want satisfaction, I pay off the lower one and cut it up. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, we have a few more in the chat. One is from Marissa. She's asking what percentage of your savings should you allocate to an emergency fund?
Well, usually savings, we just said 6 months of your expenses. So 6 right now, today, probably 6 to 12 months of your expenses. So if you have, say, your expenses are, say, $3,000 a month, then put aside $18,000. Take 18 from your savings, and that's a great question too, because you should put your emergency fund in a separate account. a separate bank account so that you don't touch that. Even maybe a separate bank so that you don't see that money. It's not tempting. It's not available to move from one account to your debit card. You just say, put it somewhere, lock it down, and forget it until it's needed. Other question, Tamoy?
Yes, so I see a few more in the chat, and I'm also seeing your hand, Mohammed. So we're coming to you shortly, but I have one here. Should one use part of their savings to fund an investment, or should they borrow a loan to fund the investment?
No loan to fund the investment unless the investment is an entrepreneurial endeavor. Unless your investment is, I mean, are you gonna, and here we can't do investment advice, because as a financial advisor, I can't do investment advice. I can talk and teach people stuff, but not investment advice. So do you borrow to fund the investment? I would say it depends on the investment. If it's stock, no. Stock market, up and down. Are you going to buy some land and plant or something? It depends on the investment, but I would say rule of thumb, unless it's an entrepreneurial endeavor, I'd say rule of thumb, no. But everybody has their own situation, so you should look at your situation. Financial advisors look at people's situations before they give advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morris. We have Mohammed who has been raising his hand. So if you want to come on the mic, Mohammed, the floor is yours.
So Mohammed need to open his mic. You're muted, Mohammed. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. As you will probably hear from the voice, I'm from Barbados, and I just decided, let me just ask you a little advice, because in my situation, well, as you might have heard, Barbados is under a national pause, as they put it. And the thing is, I haven't been working for about a year because I was studying. I had to quit my job in order to study. I'm now a qualified teacher, just finished my DipEd. So I just happen to be working a part-time job. But now due to the whole lockdown and everything, that job, I can't work there now. And right now I'm kind of backed into a corner. So I do have some things in mind, maybe start my own business. I admit I've been a bit lazy about that, but now that I'm in a situation where I have no choice. So I'm just asking for a little advice on what could be done, what I could do at this point.
So Mohammed, if you had been on my, when I was invited and I did Ready, Set, Reinvent speech for UWI, that's where I talk about what's in your hands. So Mohammed, what's in your hands that you can use to reinvent yourself during this temporary pause?
Well, I speak fluent Spanish, and I'm a recently qualified foreign language teacher.
Okay, so Mohammed, you get on the web, just as I just told Kenneth, and you look for translation opportunities. You look for training opportunities where you can stay in Barbados and train people, teach them Spanish. And Mohammed, if you were, sorry, I'm talking about that same speech I did, but what I did, my book Teen Money 101, I wanted it translated into Spanish. So what I did, Mohammed, I bartered with a young lady. I mentor her. She's Hispanic. I'm mentoring her, and she is translating my book into Spanish. So look for opportunities like that, but look for opportunities where you can monetize your talent. So again, it's World Wide Web. Go on the web and put your name on, register with companies where people can find you, etc., and start doing stuff.
Understood.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is Sylvia. What about tutoring?
Yes, I think I just said tutoring, didn't I?
No, I didn't hear that.
I think I said.
Yeah, no, Ash, no, you mentioned tutoring. You didn't say the word tutoring, but that's what you meant.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Bashu. Tamoy, any other questions?
Yes, I'm seeing one here. Someone is asking, how do you find out your credit rating in Barbados? Are you aware of how one goes about finding out what's your credit rate in Barbados if you're living in Barbados?
You know, Tamoy, I thought of that and I thought what my answer would be. I did think of that. I think you'd have to call your bank or something in Barbados and find out, or call your central bank and find out from your central bank how you find it in Barbados, and if it's something that's used in Barbados.
Awesome. I have Chandris here asking, is insurance seen as an investment? What do you classify as investment instruction? I hope I phrased it correctly, Chandris, but what I'm understanding is insurance seen as investment, and what would you classify as investment instruction?
Investment, let me go to the easier question first. What I would
Sorry, let me clarify the question. So I was asking if is like investment in like paying for an insurance for critical illness and life insurance, are those stuff classified as investments? And if not, what do you think are investments in instruments rather, are food, commodities?
Okay, so basically insurances, there's some insurances that can be classified as investments, but that's when you get into playing with a lot of dynamic stuff, and when very rich people want to like hide their money from Uncle Sam, then they will play with these instruments. But in terms of insurance for health insurance or life insurance, etc., they're not really looked at as investments. So when I say about investment instruments, I'm talking about stocks and bonds and like different things that you find, fixed income, or look at stock market indices that you buy instruments, investment. People have put together indices, like you can find indexes, fixed index that follow the S&P and that follow the stock market. Those are the things that I call investments. So for educational purposes, an investment class for educational purposes would talk about the types of investments, would talk about the risk associated with different types of investments, would tell you that you need to do a risk analysis before a financial advisor would put you into any instruments, and it all depends on your age and how much money you have and your experience in investments, etc. So an education class would give you the generics without specifics. Did I answer your question?
Okay, but you don't, but so insurance is something different entirely then. That's just security for life, for your life.
Yes, health insurance and life insurance are not usually considered. Some can be, but not the generic ones for where you take out insurance in case you die and your kids get money, etc. Some can be.
Okay, thank you. And I'm from Jamaica, Mona campus.
Okay, thank you. Shout out to Jamaica. And I should tell you, well, the last time I was on this platform, I was doing some mentoring. So I became an honorary Jamaican when Kamala Harris was sworn in. I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I'm an honorary, I declared myself, right, Karina? I declared myself an honorary Jamaican.
Yes, you did.
Any questions? Any more questions?
Yes, there's one more in the chat, and I'll just read it. Currently, I have used most of savings to invest in real estate, looking at long-term gains. Do you think this is a wise decision? And this is from Igona. She says she's used most of her savings to invest in real estate. She's looking at it for long-term gains, but do you think this is a wise decision?
So I would answer that in a roundabout way. I recently met with a lady who took a lot of her money and she put it into her retirement savings, and she didn't have enough money for her regular expenses, for her life expenses. So she was preparing for retirement, but not living. So that's my roundabout answer. I would say you need that cushion. You need to have some emergency funds. When you tie money up in real estate is not it's not liquid. It takes a while to get money back, to sell real estate or get money back from real estate. So when you have a situation, an emergency, and you need cash, well, maybe you can go to the bank and raise some money from the real estate, but it's not as easy and as liquid as having 6 months. So if I were your advisor, I'd tell you, start bulking up on that emergency fund.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Morris. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but just in case, when we're home and we're watching over the recording and something comes to us, I'm asking if you could just go back to the previous slide with your contact information, that perhaps we could reach out to you just in case anything pops back into our heads. And also for our friends on the chat who are wondering how you find out your credit information based on your jurisdiction, some of our friends have put answers as it relates to Trinidad and Barbados, so you can scroll through and see how it is that you go about doing that. So everyone, here is Miss Morris's information on the screen, and of course you can request the recording at the email that I had placed in the chat. Now, Miss Morris, I don't know where anybody else.
I think we lost you, Tamoy. So we lost Tamoy. Karina, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. We lost Tamoy, but I think she was probably going to share the sentiments of just about everyone on the webinar, that this was very informative. We thank you for your expertise in this area, and we look forward to additional webinars surrounding topics similar to this, because I learned so much, and the chat is really buzzing right now with persons, commending you and thanking you for an excellent presentation. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. As you know, Karina, I love to talk and I love to share my expertise. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Right. Thank you too. Have a good night.
Okay, bye then.
Good night. Stay safe, everyone.
Okay, yeah. Until next time.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.